that would turn me off a little bit.
Otherwise, you don't really have anything about you. Before we get into the questions, it's important to, in a way, see a date as almost an informal interview. You want to learn if it's going to work, if it's going to be a successful relationship, or they don't get to the second stage. So all the questions need to be thought-provoking and all about that person to learn about who they are.
Second stage, I feel like we're watching The X Factor.
You're fired.
Or America's Got Talent or something.
But don't you agree with me in that sense? You're selling yourself on a date
100%.
and they're selling themselves to you. So, you know, you can always see it as let's just have a laugh and whatnot. But to get to the point and really understand if this person's worth a second date and more, you need to get to the fundamentals of who they truly are.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would say, I love the way that you put it as an informal interview. You're on the right tracks for sure about it's a chance to get to know each other. You don't want to waste time. Don't be around the bush too much and just literally take it on face value. You're meeting someone for the first time. You might want to spend the rest of your life with someone. You might be meeting Mr. Right or Mrs. Right. And you want to know if they're at least worth a second chance, a second date. So you're not wasting your time. So
exactly. The sooner you know if they're worth it, the better.
So the first question I'd say to ask to not waste your time too much is, what was it about me that made you want to go on a date with me?
I think that's good because that's an open question and it's a thought-provoking one because it understands from the offset what the initial attractions and the reasons why you're here are.
In your opinion, are there any answers to that sort of question that can be a put-off or can be a turn-on?
I think a put-off, you know, depending on obviously the intentions of this date, i.e. is it something serious or are you just looking for a fling, you know? But if let's go by the serious option, something that would be a put-off would probably be, okay, what's the reasons for this date right now? And their response is something as simple as, I thought, why not? Or I thought you were attractive. It's just so simple and so there's no effort.
I definitely agree with the first point, but not the second point. Because if someone was like, why not?
Yeah.
Well, you just had nothing better to do. But if someone was saying to the other person, I found you really attractive, you're my type on paper, and I thought it would be a good chance to get to know you better, I think that's quite a nice answer.
I think that's okay, but all right.
And that's quite true as well.
That is better than, for example, I just thought you were fit. They basically mean the same thing, but one's just gone a little bit deeper. It's showed a bit better intention as opposed to just purely stating the obvious of I'm attracted.
It shows that the person that's answering the question has got a lot more about him, he's a bit more of an intellect.
There's more to them and there's a deeper thought, you know, a better consideration or a better feeling. It's important to establish those deeper questions and those ones that require a bit more effort to assess if they actually are willing to make that effort.
100%. So I definitely believe that is probably the first question that anyone should be asking on any date, because it is really important just to nip it in the bud, because that would be an indicator whether the date's even worth to continue, is even worth continuing.
Exactly. Then I would say you move on to getting to know that person, right? So questions such as, what do you do for a living? Where do you live? Find out who they are. Find out what their interests are.
Yeah, so what do you do for a living? And that's a good question to ask next.
I think that's good because you not only understand what they do, but also their drive, their ambition, their reasons for why they do their career. Again, that question sort of opens an understanding of, like I said, not only what they do, but why they do it and who they truly are. Are they a driven, ambitious person, or are they just someone who is just working for the sake of it, or are they someone who's just working for a bit of income to build another hustle? You know, that answers so many questions in one, and that's why it's such a powerful question.
But then I don't think asking what they do for a living will answer those questions. I think that you need to dig deeper. Because if I say, what do you do for a living? And you say, I don't know, I'm an accountant, for example. That tells me your job. It doesn't tell me your ambition. It doesn't tell me your side hustle. You're going to have to ask more questions, aren't you?
Yeah, but at least it opens the opportunity.
It opens up a branch of other questions that you can ask.
It doesn't have to end with, what do you do for a living? I'm an accountant. What do you do for a living? I'm a solicitor. End it there. You know, you elaborate. And that's what it does. It gives you a talking point. Which is why I think that question is so important to come early, because already you're defeating awkward silence because you're opening up more opportunity to elaborate. Hence, which leads to those 3 points I said: who you are, why you do it, and how driven you are.
If you ask that question on a date, because I think it's going to be good for people watching and listening too, would it be a turn off if the person you're dating is unemployed, just sort of sitting around, hasn't really got much ambition, doesn't have a career path, doesn't have a job, maybe just sponging off the family money or something like that.
That would be a complete put off. To appear unambitious or maybe lost in life, it's not the best thing, because you should know where you are in your life. And if you're unsure, how do you expect someone else to have that security from you, or that sure, and how do you expect them to feel sure of you? It's not about the best job or the most money. It's about the intentions of what you're trying to achieve in your life. So if you have no intention to work, no intention to grow, no intention to build, then from the offset, that's a put off.
So I think the next big question to ask is, what are your future plans with regards to family life? Do you plan on starting a family in the future? Are you more career driven and haven't really got time for family? What sort of future plans do you have in that, with those regards? Because I suppose whether you're a man or woman and you're on a date, if you want to start a family and the response you get to that is, oof, I ain't got time for kids, I just want to work on my career, focus on my career, it's what I have a passion for, I think that's an instant see you later, isn't it?
Not necessarily, because it depends on where you are in your life and when that question comes in. Because let's say you're quite young and you meet someone. If you ask them, let's say in future you want children, who's to say that their response at that time is saying, oh no, not for a while, I'm not too sure. You're at an age where that's okay.
No, but that's different. Now, not for a while, I'm not too sure, it's different to I never want to have children.
Oh, okay. Never is very different
that's
to,
what I'm saying.
oh, I don't think so.
I have a big ambition to have at least 2 to 4 kids. Now, if you turned to me and said, well, I only want 1 child, that might bother me. That might bother me because I come from a big family and I want to continue having a big family. So I suppose, is there compromise in that?
I think 100% that's a small compromise, because it's not something hard to give up. Let's say you imagine yourself with 4 children. It's not something you have, it's something you imagine. And really the fundamental is that you want to be a father. As long as you have the intentions to both become parents, the number of children should not be the difference between you being together and not.
So another really good question to ask is, what do you do for fun? I would say that's quite an important question and quite an interesting one too, because it then tells you what their day-to-day is like, what they do to enjoy life on their day-to-day activities. And
yeah, I think from the offset, something as simple as just asking what they do for fun establishes their interest, and it gives you a bit of an insight into who they are and what they enjoy. It's an open question, and I always believe in open questions, especially in interviews as well as first dates, because it's thought-provoking and it doesn't leave you with just these one-worded yes and no answers that lead to awkward silence. That opens more opportunity to lead to other conversations. For example, let's say they say a hobby that you're interested in, or even one that you're not but you don't understand. You elaborate on it and you somehow have one short question that leads to a long time of talking and more understanding about each other.
Is it a put-off if the person that you're on a first date with has no hobbies?
I think so. I think everyone in life has hobbies. Otherwise,
I think that would turn me off a little bit.
Otherwise, you don't really have anything about you. Surely everyone has an interest. I'd be very surprised to come across someone who's just like, no. Or I don't do anything, or I don't know.
I would actually be very cringed out if someone has no hobbies. It's like, what do you do with your life?
Because hobbies aren't necessarily...
Doesn't even have to be a big thing.
This is just it. Hobbies doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I play a sport or I play an instrument. It could literally be, I like to watch films or I like to read books. It's not anything amazing about you. It's just about you. You should have an interest, whether it's big or small. There has to be something or multiple things that you do that you enjoy.
I totally agree. And I think that's a great question to ask, 100%. I'm now going to raise a question which for me is a deal breaker if I don't get the answer that I'm looking for. This is non-negotiable. Do you have any pets? And do you love dogs? Those are my 2 questions, because they don't need to have pets. That's absolutely fine. I can live with that. If I'm on a date with a woman and she says, I do not like dogs, I find them stinky, I don't like them, I'm scared of them, au revoir, hasta la vista, baby. It's a deal breaker.
Well, I can understand that, because that's a very big compromise. For example, you may be wanting to, or even already have a pet. And if that person's not accepting of that, when it comes to, let's say it is serious, you do progress, you do share a life together, you move in together, what happens? One of you is really compromising a strong love of theirs, and that will lead to resentment. So from the offset, such a simple question will just determine if that's avoidable or not.
No, I totally agree. Another good question to ask is, who's your hero?
I
think
really
that's
like
quite
this
a nice question.
And again, these are all open questions.
I also feel that their hero will dictate who they are as a character, and it will almost give you a deep understanding of who they are as a person. For example, if I said my hero is myself in 10 years, I'd say that's quite an ambitious way of thinking. That shows a lot of character.
I really like that answer. I think that's an out of the box answer, but that really does show a true ambition.
And I genuinely think that your only motivation, your only hero should be yourself. I genuinely feel that, because if you start seeking validation, or if you need to see someone else be successful for you to aspire to be successful, then I'd say it raises a concern on how motivated you actually are in life.
See, I agree with that, but on the flip side, it's not bad and it's quite inspirational to find a figure or someone you aspire to be and learn from them. Some people might not have a vision of themselves, and that's okay. But if they get an inspiration and visual, influence from someone else, that doesn't mean that they're not driven or ambitious. It means that they've taken it upon themselves to find that figure. If they can't find it themselves, they found a specific figure to look to be inspired by. And that shows true ambition as well.
It's a debatable one. And let us know in the comments what you think. Let us know in the comments if your only hero should be found within, or if you can find a hero external to yourself.
I would say another question is to understand what they were like as a child.
Yes.
Because I'm a strong believer in your childhood actually dictates who you are today. I truly believe in that.
Entirely, or just a portion of your childhood?
I almost think entirely, but maybe without you not knowing.
Interesting.
So obviously we don't remember everything through our childhood.
Yeah.
But I really believe that your childhood shaped who you are today. Some of it you may remember and recall. Some of it is conscious. You don't remember, you don't realize. But I believe it is in its entirety possible. And to understand someone who they were as a child, it shows what they were like growing up, what mattered to them then, and how it's become something of them now.
Well, Sigmund Freud, this is literally what he speaks about. For those that don't know, he's the guy that really kicked off the mind studies and psychology. Sigmund Freud literally talks about everything coming from your childhood, but not just from your childhood, but even deeper than that, from like when you were a baby, like a newborn, from that age.
Yeah, I think so too. I think people underestimate how intuitive babies are.
100%. Okay, so the final and most important question that we've saved till last is, what do you look for in a partner? Because I think that is probably one of the most important questions to ask on a date.
Essentially, if you're looking for a life partner, you know what you're looking for. So for someone to ask you what you see in a partner, you should be quite sure on what you should say. And if you're not, then your intentions are now questionable. Because if you are just dating for fun or dating to see what's out there, you're not necessarily serious to find your lifelong partner. Because like I said, you should know exactly what you want. So it solidifies your seriousness.
I think that when you ask that question, I think a really good answer would be a lot more deeper than just the look side of things. So I think that when they say, what do you look for in a partner, almost it should go straight into the character of the partner that they are looking for versus the looks, the physical attraction side of it.
The question will bring out your intentions and
exactly
your true perception of what you see in your lifelong partner. And if it literally starts with a shallow, skin deep response, then you know that's sort of where it ends.
I think those are great questions.
I think it's safe to say those are the most important questions to really establish that person.
Agreed.
And also, it doesn't seem like many questions, but because they're all open, they've sparked so many more conversations.
They have.
And before you know it, just those few questions, you've had yourself a good long date, and you really have gone away understanding who that person is, what their intentions are, where they want to be, where they are. From there, you can understand and really value and really determine if they are worth that second date or not.
I totally agree. So that's the end. Thank you so much for watching. We really do hope that you found value in it. If you did, give us a thumbs up and let us know down below in the comments what resonated with you the most.